Hello Year 2, how are you? And welcome to this week's RE lesson. Now in our RE lesson last week, we looked at the different rules that Buddhists follow. And then you went away and thought of lots of different ways in which Buddhists can follow these rules. Now today we're going to be carrying on looking at Buddhism by answering the question, how and where do Buddhists worship? So by the end of the lesson, you'll know some facts about some famous Buddhist temples and you'll know how Buddhists worship. You will also know what a Buddhist shrine is. Now, don't worry if you don't know what a shrine is just yet, because we're going to be looking at that together in a little while. And you'll not only know what a shrine is, you'll also know what can be included in a Buddhist shrine. Now, before we look at today's question, let's see how much you can remember from last lesson. So here are 4 sentences. The Buddhist symbol is called the Wheel of Life. The wheel represents the cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth. Buddhists believe in the afterlife, and there are 7 rules that Buddhists must follow. So you need to decide if these sentences are true or false, and if they're false, can you correct them? Okay, Year 2, so let's go through it together. The first one, the Buddhist symbol is called the Wheel of Life. Well, can you see the Buddhist symbol in the corner of our screen? And it looks like a wheel, doesn't it? And yes, that's because it's called the Wheel of Life. So therefore, that one's true. Okay, the next one. The wheel represents the cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth. So remember, Buddhists believe that you are born, you live your life, you pass away, and then you are reborn. So that is their cycle of life. And yes, the wheel of life, this shows the cycle of life. So therefore, that one's true as well. Okay, now remember, religions can believe either in the afterlife or reincarnation. Now, what did reincarnation mean? Yes, it's when you're reborn. And look, rebirth is part of the cycle of life that Buddhists believe in. So therefore, do Buddhists believe in the afterlife or in reincarnation? Yes, they believe in reincarnation because they believe in rebirth. So therefore, that statement is false because they don't believe in the afterlife. They believe in reincarnation. Okay, the next one. There are 7 rules that Buddhists must follow. Well, remember, each of the spokes on the wheel of life represents a different rule that Buddhists must follow. And how many spokes are there? Yes, there are 8 spokes, aren't there? So that one is incorrect. It's false because there are 8 rules that Buddhists must follow. Now, can you remember what these rules are called? Yes, that's right. They are called the Noble Eightfold Path. Fantastic. Well done for remembering all of that from last lesson, Year 2. Now let's move on to today's learning. So we are going to look in a minute at some Buddhist temples around the world. And I want you to think, what interesting or unusual features do you notice? How are they different to other places of worship that you have seen? Okay, so let's have a look at our first one. Now, this one is a Buddhist temple called Wat Arun, and it is in Bangkok in Thailand, which is in Asia. Okay, now let's first of all have a look at the picture on the right. Can you see the statues, the gold statues of the Buddha? Well, these can be found in this temple. Now, this temple is named for the Hindu god of dawn, who is called Arun. Okay, so it can be called the Temple of Dawn. Now, it is one of Thailand's oldest temples. And can you see, it's got some colourfully decorated spires. It's got the spire in the middle, which is called the prang. And then it's got 4 spires round the outside. Can you see those? Well, they're colourfully decorated spires. And then, can you see that it's right next to the water? Can you see the water in front of it? And you can see that the temple is reflecting onto the water. You can see the outline of the temple on the water. Now, can you see as well that it has golden tiles? So on the outside of the temple, there are golden tiles. Now, where do these golden tiles come from? Well, they are originally broken bits of Chinese dishes. But from where? Well, they were found on a British shipwreck, and they were then placed as the tiles on the temple Wat Arun in Bangkok. Now, this temple has a glittering effect in the sun, okay, and people like to visit it mostly during sunset, okay, because of this glittering effect and the fact that it reflects onto the water. Okay, now let's have a look at our next temple. So this one is called Pathat Luang. Okay, now this is in Laos in Southeast Asia, so in the continent of Asia. Now this was built in 1566 and it was built by the king. Can you see that again it is gold, and on the left we also have some statues of the Buddha again, and again it has spires around the outside, doesn't it? And it has one in the middle, so that is a similarity with the other Buddhist temple that we saw, because it has a central spire. Can you remember what that central spire was called? Yes, it was called a prang. Okay, so that's our second Buddhist temple. Let's have a look at the next one. Oh, okay. So we've got the Jokhang Temple in Tibet. Now that Tibet is in China, in Asia. Now what did you notice in the picture at the bottom? What can you see? Yes, I can see it too. We can see the wheel of life. So there we go. That is the Buddhist symbol, isn't it? And it can be seen in this temple. Now, Jokhang means the house of the Buddha. So this temple is called the Jokhang Temple because Jokhang means the house of the Buddha, where the Buddha lives. And it was built by the king in the 7th century. Now, there's a story behind how this temple was built. Do you want to hear it? Okay, so there is a story, a legend, as it's called, that the king threw his ring into the water and then the temple appeared. How amazing is that? So the king threw his ring, this is the story behind it, he threw his ring into the water and then the temple appeared, and that is what Buddhists believe. So that's our third temple. Now let's have a look at our last temple. So this is called Maha Bodhi Temple and it is in India, again in Asia, and it is one of the holiest sites of Buddhism. So it's a very important site for Buddhists, and it is one of the oldest brick temples in India. Okay, so it's very old, and next to it, so opposite the temple, there is a tree that is from the family of the Bodhi trees that Siddhartha Gautama sat under when he became the Buddha. So you'll find one of those trees that's from the same family as the Bodhi tree opposite the temple. And again, can you see that there is a person meditating in the picture on the right? So there we go. There are 3 famous Buddhist temples. Firstly, we had the Wat Arun, then we had the Pathat Luang, then we had the Jokhang Temple. Remember, Jokhang means the house of the Buddha. And then we had the Maha Bodhi Temple. Okay, so we've learned about 4 different famous Buddhist temples.